All right, so today we're going deep, diving into the world of welding.
Really gonna get into the nitty-gritty, huh?
We are, and it's funny, welding, it's one of those things, essential, right? But we don't often think about the career itself.
Yeah, kind of under the radar.
Exactly. So we're going beyond just the sparks and metal today, really digging into what a career in welding actually looks like.
Sounds good. What are we looking at today?
Well, we've got a whole stack of resources here from RoleCatcher.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of them.
Mm,
They're focused on career development, right?
that's right. And they have some really interesting guides on welding, job hunting, the whole nine yards.
Cool.
So we're going to break those down for our listeners, give them the inside scoop.
Excellent.
So, I'll be honest, when I think welding, I think skilled trades, which is fantastic, don't get me wrong.
Of course. Yeah,
But high tech isn't exactly the first thing that pops to mind.
I can see that.
But that's where RoleCatcher gets really interesting. They highlight this whole other side of welding.
Oh, tell me more. What'd they say?
So they talk about how there's real potential for growth, specialization,
Okay.
and get this, even working with some really cool technology.
Really? Like what? Yeah. I'm intrigued.
Right. It's not what you'd expect, but we're talking automation, robotics, the works. It's pretty wild.
Wow, I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah,
So welders working with robots.
that's exactly what RoleCatcher is talking about. It's not just about being handy with a torch anymore. Apparently, there's a growing need for welders who can operate these robotic systems, program them,
Wow.
troubleshoot, the whole deal. It's this whole combination of traditional craftsmanship, but then you layer on these digital skills.
Makes sense, though. I mean, everything's going high tech.
It's true, and welding is no exception, it seems.
So what does RoleCatcher say about I don't know, the actual job?
Right, like what's it actually like to be a welder?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're pretty upfront about the challenges. They have this whole section on pros and cons.
Well, yeah, gotta love those.
Right, and sometimes those can be a little simplistic, but I thought RoleCatcher did a good job of, being realistic.
Okay.
So on the challenging side, they talk a lot about the physical demands.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's not like you're sitting at a desk all day.
Exactly. You're on your feet a lot,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes in some pretty demanding environments.
Makes sense.
They talk about working outdoors on construction sites or maybe in a factory setting, things like that.
Right, right.
And then there's the potential exposure to hazardous materials, which is something to be aware of.
Absolutely. Safety is paramount in a job like that.
Couldn't agree more. And they emphasize that a lot.
That's-
But it's not all doom and gloom.
Right.
They also talk about the really high demand for skilled welders right now.
Oh, I've heard that too, actually.
Yeah, so we hear that a lot, but why? What's driving that?
I think it's a few things.
Okay.
One, there's just this shortage of skilled tradespeople across the board, and that includes welding.
Okay, so it's not just welding, it's kind of across the board.
Right, exactly. But also, think about it, so many things need welding, right?
That's true, yeah.
Like infrastructure, manufacturing, there's a lot going on right now.
Yeah,
Even specialized things, aerospace.
it's everywhere when you think about it.
Yeah, and all those sectors, they're growing, which means they need more welders.
And more welders means
More jobs, hopefully better pay.
music to any job seeker's ears.
Exactly.
And that's the thing, right? Like job security, good pay, those are huge factors when you're thinking long-term about a career.
Absolutely.
So we've got the demand, but what about moving up?
You mean like career progression?
Exactly. Like what does that look like in the welding world?
So that's one thing RoleCatcher really emphasizes. It's not a dead-end job. You know,
Okay.
you can start maybe as an apprentice or in an entry-level position.
Right?
And then with experience, maybe some extra training, work your way up.
Okay. So what does working your way up look like?
Well, you could become a supervisor, maybe manage a whole team of welders, oversee projects,
Okay.
or you could specialize.
Oh, interesting. Like in what?
Well, think like pipeline welding
Right.
or underwater welding. That's a big one.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Those specialties, they often pay more too.
Yeah, because it's riskier, right?
Exactly. Higher stakes.
And higher pay. Makes
Yeah.
sense. Are there other paths, though?
Absolutely. Some welders, they go into inspection or quality control,
Oh, okay.
making sure everything meets the standards.
Very important.
Yeah, super important. And then there's always the entrepreneurial route.
Oh, right. Starting your own business.
Exactly. Your own boss, the whole shebang.
See, that's what I think is so cool. It's not just this one track. It's like you start with these core skills, then kind of find your niche.
Yeah, totally.
Maybe you become a welding guru. Who knows?
Right.
The possibilities. But let's be real, even if you're totally gung-ho about welding,
Yeah.
job hunting can be a beast.
Ugh. the worst.
Right. Resumes, cover letters, interviews, it's a lot.
That's a lot.
Especially in a competitive job market.
For sure.
So what does RoleCatcher say about standing out, landing that dream welding gig?
Well, first off, they're big on tailoring your application.
Oh, okay.
So, like, no more generic resumes.
Right, because nobody wants to feel like they're getting a mass email.
Exactly.
Employers want to know you actually care, that you've done your research.
Right. Totally.
But how do you figure out what they're looking for? Sometimes those job postings feel like a secret code.
Tell me about it.
But RoleCatcher, they're on it. They actually have a feature that analyzes job descriptions for you.
What? Really?
I know, it's kind of amazing.
That's incredible.
So it breaks it all down, tells you what skills they really want.
So it's like, what, a job hunting sidekick?
Basically. And it's not just like, oh, you need to know how to weld. It gets really specific.
Oh, okay, like how so?
So they break it down into hard skills,
Yeah.
your technical welding know-how, like different techniques, tools.
Makes sense.
And then they also look at soft skills.
Oh, yeah, those are important too.
Huge. Things like communication, problem solving, teamwork.
Right, can't forget those.
Because let's be real, even in a trade, you're working with people.
Exactly.
So it's not just about what you can weld, it's how you weld with others.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Exactly. Okay, but hold on. RoleCatcher also mentions certifications, right? Like those are kind of a big deal in welding, right?
They're huge, and, you know, it makes sense. It's a way to prove your skills, show you're the real deal.
Exactly. But there are a bunch of them out there, so which ones should people actually focus on?
Well, RoleCatcher actually gives a really good breakdown of that.
Oh, good, because that's always the question, right? Like, where do I even start?
Exactly. And they even link to the organization so you can find more information.
Okay, that's helpful. But give us the quick rundown. What are a couple of the certifications people should have on their radar?
Well, first up, there's the Certified Welder Credential, the CW.
Okay, the CW. Got it.
This one's pretty broad. It covers a lot of different skills. Yeah. Often, it's like a baseline for getting your foot in the door.
So, like, if you're fresh out of training, that's a good one to shoot for.
Exactly.
Oh.
Then you got things like the CWI, the Certified Welding Inspector,
Okay, an inspector.
and the CWE, the Certified Welding Educator.
So you can teach welding, too.
Exactly.
That's so cool.
Yeah, those are more for experienced welders who want to specialize.
Okay, so it's not just about getting certified, it's about getting the right certifications, the ones that actually match what you want to do.
Exactly, you got it.
Awesome. So we've talked about skills, certifications, but then comes the really fun part, the interview.
Dun, dun, dun. Everyone's favorite.
Right.
Yeah.
So what does RoleCatcher have to say about totally crushing those welding interviews?
Well, they stress that in welding, interviews can be pretty hands-on.
Oh, really? Like they actually make you weld?
Sometimes, yeah. They want us to see what you can do.
Oh, wow. That's pressure.
It's the real deal.
Okay, so you got to come prepared to actually weld.
You bet. But of course, there's the talking part, too.
Right. Like what kind of questions should people be ready for?
Well, they might ask about different welding processes.
Makes sense.
Safety protocols, really important.
Of course, yeah.
Maybe your ability to read blueprints.
Oh, right. Like the technical drawings?
Exactly. But they'll also want to know about you, your work ethic, how you solve problems.
So it's like a 2-for-1. Your skills, and then you as a person.
Exactly. Because welding, it can be a team effort.
That's true. Yeah, you're not always welding solo.
Right. And then, get this. RoleCatcher, they have this massive database.
The what?
Interview questions. Like a ridiculous amount.
How many are we talking?
Over 120,000.
What? No way.
I know. It's crazy.
120,000 questions.
It's a gold mine.
Yeah.
And they're not just random questions. They're tailored to specific careers, industries.
Oh, wow. So you're actually getting questions that are relevant to welding.
Exactly.
That's way better than just trying to memorize generic answers.
Exactly. They break it down by experience level, too.
Oh, that's smart. So whether you're just starting out or you've been welding for years,
I've got you covered.
that's so helpful because you don't want to be hit with questions that are like way over your head.
Right, or way too easy.
Exactly. But honestly, sometimes it's not even about knowing the answers. It's about how you present yourself. You know?
Oh, 100%. Confidence is key.
Exactly. Like, how do you project that you're the welding superstar they've been waiting for?
Right.
Well, RoleCatcher's got your back there, too.
No way. Tell me.
Okay, so get this. They have this AI-powered feedback feature.
Wait, what? Hold on. AI for interviews now.
I know, it's wild, right? So you can record yourself answering practice questions.
Oh, okay.
And the AI will actually analyze your answers.
No way. That's next level.
Right, like having a virtual interview coach in your pocket.
I love it.
So what does it
Yeah.
tell you? Like, does it just give you a thumbs up or thumbs down? Or does it get into the nitty-gritty?
It gets into everything. Your tone, how fast you're talking, even your body language.
Oh, wow. Because that stuff matters, right?
Huge. Especially in an interview, first impressions are everything.
Okay, so it's like getting feedback on a whole other level. It's not just what you say, it's how you say it.
Exactly.
Amazing.
It is. And you know what else I thought was cool? RoleCatcher emphasizes storytelling in interviews.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more about that.
So it's not just listing off your skills and experience like a robot.
Right.
They want you to share stories that really bring those skills to life.
Oh, that's smart. Because a story, that's way more memorable than just like, I can weld this, I can weld that.
Right. It's about connecting with the interviewer, showing them who you are.
So it's about showing your personality, that you're more than just a resume.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's awesome. So we've covered a lot here. The challenges of a welding career, the rewards, all those certifications.
So much good stuff.
Right.
Yeah. And RoleCatcher, they've got all these resources to help you navigate it all, Figure out your path, make those career decisions.
It's like they're holding your hand through the whole job hunting jungle.
Pretty much. But, let's pull back for a sec.
Okay.
Bigger picture, the whole welding world.
Love it.
We touched on automation.
Yeah.
How that's shaking things up.
Right. Robots, all that.
But there's other stuff going on, too.
Oh, like what? Give me the scoop.
Well, specialization's becoming a big deal.
Specialization. Okay.
Different industries, they need different kinds of welding.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not one size fits all.
Exactly. Like, we're seeing more and more demand for, say, laser welding.
Laser welding.
Super precise electronics, medical devices, that kind of thing.
Oh, wow. So it's really high tech then.
Totally. You're not just a jack of all trades anymore. You're like a laser welding ninja.
I like the sound of that. Okay, so more specialized. What else is changing?
Well, the materials themselves.
Oh, interesting.
We're using more exotic metals, alloys, all sorts of wild stuff.
Wild in what way?
Well, think aerospace, right? Always trying to make planes lighter, stronger.
Right.
Those materials, they're not easy to weld.
I bet. You need some serious skills for that.
For sure. That's why staying up to date is so important.
Oh, absolutely. Like continuing education, all that.
Exactly. Welding's not a learn it once and you're done kind of deal.
It's always evolving.
Totally. New techniques, new materials, new tech. You got to be ready for it all.
It's like being a lifelong student, but in a cool welding kind of way.
Exactly. And honestly, that's what makes it exciting. Always something new to learn,
Keeps you on your toes.
You got it.
So all this talk about demand, new skills, what's the bottom line? What can someone actually expect to earn as a welder?
Right. The million-dollar question.
Exactly. Fill those piggy banks. So what's the salary situation looking like?
Well, like anything, it depends.
Okay, on what?
Experience, obviously.
Yeah.
Certifications, those definitely matter.
Sure.
Where you're working, what industry, it all plays a role.
So even in welding, it's all about location.
To an extent, yeah. But generally speaking, welding pays pretty well.
Okay, good to know.
Especially when you consider you don't necessarily need a 4-year degree.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, you can start earning sooner.
So for someone comparing their options, maybe thinking about trades versus college, what kind of numbers are we talking about here?
So starting out, entry level, maybe in the 30 to 40,000 range, give or take.
Okay.
But then as you gain experience, certifications, move up the ladder.
It goes up from there.
Oh, yeah. Experienced welders, especially if they've got those specialized skills, certain industries,
They're raking it in.
they can be making 60, 70, 80,000, even more.
Wow, see, I told you. Those are some nice digits.
Right. And, RoleCatcher, they make a good point about that.
What's that?
It's not just about the money, but thinking long term.
Right.
That return on investment.
Right, like how much time and money are you putting in versus what you're getting back?
Exactly.
Makes sense. Okay, but we've got to talk about the elephant in the room.
Uh-oh, which one's that?
Safety.
Ah, right, of course.
It's a tough job. It can be dangerous. What do people need to know?
Well, it starts with training, right? Any good program's going to drill safety from day one.
Okay, that's good.
I mean, you're dealing with molten metal, intense heat.
Yeah, that's serious stuff.
Burns, eye damage, that's always a risk if you're not careful.
Hence the helmets, all the gear.
Exactly. It's not just for show. It's your lifeline.
Absolutely.
And then you've got fumes, gases.
Right, and that can't be good to breathe in.
Not at all. Ventilation, respiratory protection, that's huge, especially in tight spaces.
Right, or if you're working with certain materials.
Exactly. And it's not just about you. It's about the people around you, too.
Oh, for sure. So it's a team effort,
Yeah.
even in terms of safety. What else? What other safety measures are standard in the welding world?
Well, there's all sorts of protocols for handling equipment materials.
Makes sense. You don't want to be messing around with that stuff.
Not at all.
Yep.
Inspecting your equipment regularly, knowing how to handle compressed gases, all super important.
So it's highly regulated then.
Oh yeah, for good reason. But you know what I found?
What's that?
It's not just about rules and regulations. It's like ingrained in the culture. Welders take safety seriously.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, there's this real emphasis on mentorship, looking out for each other.
That's awesome. So it's like a community then.
Totally. A community that prioritizes safety.
I like it. Okay, so we've talked about the technical stuff, the money, the safety.
The nuts and bolts.
Right. But what about the human side? What do welders love about their jobs?
That's a great question. You know, one thing that comes up a lot is the satisfaction.
Satisfaction, okay.
You're creating something with your hands, you
Mm.
know, something real, something tangible.
It's like that primal instinct, right?
Yeah.
We're makers, builders, it's in our DNA.
Exactly. And it's not just making something for the sake of it.
No.
It's often something essential. Bridges, buildings, machines, things that keep the world running.
Wow, that's pretty powerful.
It is. There's a real sense of purpose in that, knowing your work matters.
So it's not just a job, it's like you're contributing to society.
Exactly. And honestly, I think that's huge for a lot of welders.
Okay, so there's that sense of purpose. Anything else? What else gets welders fired up?
Well, a lot of them love the challenge, the variety.
Okay, so every day is different.
Pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Every project's different, which keeps things interesting.
It's not like you're sitting at a desk doing the same thing day in and day out.
Definitely not. You're always problem solving, figuring things out.
So it keeps you sharp.
Totally.
Okay, so for someone listening to this thinking, welding, that sounds kind of awesome, how do they know if it's really for them?
Well, first and foremost, you got to have a strong work ethic.
Okay, so it's not for the faint of heart.
No, sir. Welding's demanding. Physically, mentally, you got to be precise, pay attention to detail.
It's a craft.
It is. You got to be a problem solver too, you know? Think on your feet.
Right, because things don't always go according to plan, especially when you're dealing with molten metal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And of course, you got like working with your hands, be interested in how things are made.
So if you're the kind of person who likes taking stuff apart just to put it back together.
You might have a future in welding.
Exactly. But the best way to know for sure.
Try it out.
Right. See if it sparks your interest. Literally.
There you go. See if you can tour a welding shop, talk to some welders.
Maybe even take a class, dip your toes in the water.
Exactly.
Awesome. Now let's loop back to RoleCatcher for a sec. They've got a ton of resources, but what else stood out to you as being really helpful for someone exploring a welding career?
Well, they have this salary comparison tool. Pretty neat, actually.
Oh, what's that?
You can see how welding salaries stack up against other careers.
So, like, if I'm thinking about welding versus, I don't know, being a chef.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It can be eye-opening, especially if you're comparing trades to, the whole college route.
Because that's a big decision. It's not just about the money, but you got to factor in everything, right?
Yeah,
The cost of education. How likely are you to get a job after?
right. And RoleCatcher really stresses that, finding the right fit for you.
It's not just chasing the biggest paycheck. It's got to be something you enjoy.
100%.
And it seems like welding, it really clicks for a lot of people. There's that sense of purpose, the hands-on work.
It's true. And, one thing that really struck me researching all this,
What's that?
the sense of community.
Oh, yeah. Welders helping each other out.
Big time. They talk about how supportive the industry is, all the mentorship.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah, you're not just thrown to the wolves. There's people to guide you, teach you the ropes.
That's so valuable, especially when you're starting out, having that support system.
Absolutely. Makes all the difference.
So to wrap things up here, for anyone listening, maybe thinking about dipping their toes into the welding world, what's your one big takeaway?
Don't be afraid to go for it. Welding, it's not what you think, It's changing, growing, tons of opportunities out there.
That's more than just sparks and metal.
Exactly. Talk to people, maybe visit a welding school, see what it's all about. And RoleCatcher, they've got all those resources to get you started.
It's like having a roadmap for your welding journey.
That's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all this incredible insight.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
And to our listeners, keep those welding torches burning bright. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.